Uh-oh.
Okay, we'll start with this. The latest as it pertains to the WBO title fight at lightweight between Dixon and Terry Harper, former champion Terry Harper. Paul Reddy stated, third change for her fight date, but we move, as the kids say. Control the controllables and all of that Instagram shite. News very soon. Initially, this fight was supposed to go down on the undercard of Catterall versus Prograis. Then Jack Catterall got injured, so they moved it to the undercard of Dalton Smith's next fight. But Dalton Smith just got injured, so I figure they're going to move it back to the undercard of Catterall versus Prograis, which has been rescheduled. It's been pushed back. I think this fight will end up on the undercard of that fight. You have to wonder how these postponements are affecting the fighters who have to make weight. It's going down at lightweight, where Dixon has been. She ain't been nowhere else. Whereas Terry Harper, you will remember that Terry used to campaign at 130, then she moved up all the way to 154, then moved down to 147. She's supposed to be moving down to 135 for this fight. You have to wonder how this is affecting her specifically, because she is moving down in weight for this fight. One way to look at it is, well, the fight keeps getting postponed. That's more time for her to make the weight. That's one way to look at it, and a best case scenario. It's more time for Terry to make the weight. But another way to look at it is, because she's campaigned a lot heavier than 135 before, it might be difficult for her to get down there. It might have already been difficult for Terry to get down to 135, so close to where she used to campaign. Tack on all of the postponements. She's got to try to maintain that weight, try to hold it. Might compound on what is already a difficult weight for her to make. Don't forget that when she lost to Alicia Baumgartner, the story was that maybe Terry had stayed at 130 pounds too long, so long that it affected her punch resistance, that getting down there was already hard, and now she couldn't hold a shot. That was at 130. The fight that she's about to have, well, that's at 135. Only 5 pounds more. If 130 pounds over time became difficult for Terry to make, after she's campaigned at 154 and 147, 135 might be difficult for her to make with all of these postponements. Then why did she move down? Because Sandy Ryan knocked her out. Because Sandy Ryan ragdolled her. She manhandled her. At 147. I just don't know how healthy lightweight is for Terry Harper to make. I don't know. And when I think about all of these postponements, that she's got to try to hold that weight, try to get there, I think the fight constantly getting pushed back might affect her a bit more than it affects Rhiannon, because for Rhiannon it really is just another day at the office. Making 135, that's where she's been, that's the weight she's been making. I imagine that it affects her a little bit too, but perhaps not as much as it's affecting Terry. Terry Harper is a more experienced fighter, by and large, than Rhiannon Dixon. Terry Harper, the 2-division champion, who's been in there with anybody from Eva Wahlstrom to Natasha Jonas, Alicia Baumgartner, Cecilia Brækhus, Henna Rankin. She's a more experienced fighter than Rhiannon Dixon, but also a more weathered fighter than Rhiannon Dixon. More war-torn, more wear and tear, more than Rhiannon Dixon. Oddly enough, she's the younger fighter of the two. Younger by a year, I believe it is, but more experienced and more battle-tested, or battle-torn. That's another way to look at it. Slight edge to the champion. I'm a fan of both fighters. I'm a fan of Terry and I'm a fan of Rhiannon Dixon. But looking at these constant postponements, the weight, the circumstances, slight edge to Rhiannon Dixon, the champion. Terry Harper is the challenger. She's challenging Rhiannon Dixon for her WBO lightweight title. And I don't think the fight getting pushed back this much bodes well for Terry Harper, who's going to have to make a weight I'm not even sure she can make healthy. Rhiannon Dixon is already very fast. Herky-jerky, a very twitchy fighter with speed, some pop. She's a southpaw.
A crafty one.
I figured this was already going to be a hard fight for Terry Harper just based on who she was fighting. But when you tack on the outlying factors, the intangibles, these circumstances, I think it makes it that much harder. I'm going to go with Rhiannon Dixon to win. I'm going to go with Rhiannon Dixon to win a points decision.
To retain the WBO title.
Terry Harper's last few fights, how she looked with Cecilia Brækhus, that I expected her to look better and more dominant. How she looked with Sandy Ryan, getting beat up, getting stopped at 147 to try to move down to 135.
Going with Rhiannon,
who I think is the fresher, faster fighter of the two. I think Rhiannon is going to keep her WBO title.
I don't think these constant postponements bode well for Terry Harper and where she's trying to get down to.
I don't know where her confidence level is at right now, what kind of headspace she's in, because she is coming off a demoralizing loss to Sandy Ryan.
This fight is make or break for her.
This other stuff, it tilts things in the favor of the champion, I think. It tilts the scales in the favor of Rhiannon Dixon.
Rhiannon Dixon on points is the pick.
Men's super lightweight news. Eddie Hearn on Devin Haney versus Ryan Garcia's numbers. Both guys rolled the dice on the numbers with no minimums. They saw Garcia versus Tank and assumed it would replicate a similar model. Did you think it would? No, and I told him that. I said, this is what you'll make for the fight. And he said, no, I'll make this. And actually, what he made was exactly what I said he would make.
Which is less than what he thought.
Devin had a humbling experience in more ways than one. Did you think yourself as popular as Gervonta Davis that you assumed your fight with Ryan would do what Gervonta's fight with Ryan did?
I told you ahead of the fight, Haney versus Garcia is not going to do what Davis versus Garcia did. It's estimated to have done half that number, where Davis versus Garcia did a little over 1 million. Haney versus Garcia is estimated to have done 500,000.
Now, 500,000 pay-per-view buys, if it actually did that, is still a good number in this economy, in this unstable market, with piracy being what it is. It's out of control. 500,000 pay-per-view buys is still a robust number and a respectable number. But if what you were expecting to bring in was 1 million or over 1 million, that can be a humbling number.
Getting beat up by Ryan, dropped 3 times in the fight, can be a humbling experience.
If it did 500,000 pay-per-view buys at a price point of $80, then on pay-per-view it generated roughly $40 million. Tack on the gate, whatever it did at the gate.
Let's round up. For argument's sake, let's just round up and call it an even 50 million.
So if the pay-per-view does 50 million, well, the fighters aren't going to take all of that home. Of course not. Some portion of the 50 has to go to DAZN, who distributed the pay-per-view. Another portion of it has to go to the operational costs, production, camera people, and other staff.
Paying for all of that.
Promotion, whatever it costed to promote the show, the fight posters, the press conferences.
DAZN promoted the show.
And DAZN distributed it. They have to get back whatever they put in. And not just whatever they put in, but they're hoping to make a profit too, so there's something extra for them. There's got to be something extra for them out of the 50 million.
All those expenses, you wonder what number went to the fighters.
And don't forget about the fighters' teams and camp fees, whatever they had to spend to get ready to face each other. Some portion of the 50 million would have to go to that as well.
Training expenses.
So that by the end of it all, you're not getting what you thought you would get, because what you thought was all based on the pay-per-view doing 1 million or over 1 million, and it didn't do that. It did half that number. I remember that Ryan and Devin, after the fight, were complaining that they hadn't gotten all of their money yet. If it's the way that Eddie Hearn says it is, and they didn't even get guarantees, everything they were going to get was based off the net.
You don't get all that money right away.
You get that money, the upside, the proverbial upside of the pay-per-view, you get that over time in increments.
Though it definitely looks like they made some money, a decent amount of money. Even if it's not what they expected, they still made something. 500,000 pay-per-view buys in this market is a difficult number to hit. Gervonta didn't hit that number with his last fight. his pay-per-view with Frank Martin.
There are ballpark figures out there, some that put the number closer to 100,000, some that put it closer to 300,000, though none put the number at 500,000, at 500,000.
Nobody's reporting that.
Tough times in what is a tough market, an oversaturated market. There are more box office fights out there now than there have ever been.
The fans have pay-per-view fatigue.
Practically everything that the PBC has put out this year has been on pay-per-view, and almost everything they mean to put out will be on pay-per-view. What fights they want to do in the fall, most of them are pay-per-views, save one.
And that's not even counting DAZN. Pay-per-views by way of DAZN.
Riyadh season shows like Joshua versus Dubois, Matchroom versus Queensberry 2. Is Artur Better Be versus Dimitri Bivol? Is that going to be a pay-per-view too?
You have to wonder.
It's an oversaturated market to the point where even though Haney versus Garcia did all right, it's still a pay-per-view among many, many pay-per-views, and the fans are tired of going in their wallets.
The promise that you'll make extra money on the back end of a pay-per-view's upside, these days is an empty promise. It's not what it used to be.
Devin may end up on somebody's undercard in the fall or winter because he's said to be returning very soon.
I don't know who he's gonna fight.
I don't know at what weight, 140, 147? Those particulars have not been divulged yet, but he's said to be returning before this year is out on one of Turkey LL Sheik's shows. I don't think it's a show that Devin is headlining, so you have to assume he's on somebody's undercard.
Silver lining for him is that even if he's not headlining, Turkey pays, and he pays well.
It's a chance for him to make decent money, even if he's not in the main event. All of this has to have been a humbling experience for Devin Haney, from headlining your own shows, your own pay-per-views, to boxing on an undercard, not doing the numbers you thought you would.
Haney versus Prograis, Haney versus Garcia.
So maybe it's just that the fighters and their teams are greedy, constantly overshooting it,
Overestimating what they'll sell.
and they keep getting reminded. The market is oversaturated, and this is not your father's era of boxing.
And, you know, Ryan had his chance to be able to take it to court and prove himself innocent, but instead he'd rather take a 2-year ban and pay $1 million or 1.5. If you're so innocent and it's so easy to prove it otherwise, why not go to court? Why not go through the due process and prove yourself innocent like you keep swearing you are? But you'd rather take a 2-year ban and pay $1 million fine? If I'm innocent, I'm not chucking up 1.5. Ain't no way. I don't care how much money I got. And at first it was he tested positive because of this reason, then it was because of that reason, then it was he don't even take supplements, then it was this supplement. Then it was the ashwagandha or some shit like that. Then that company came out and said it wasn't that. Then it was the strength and conditioning coach who gave it to him the night before or whatever it was. If you guys aren't up to date yet, Ryan lies on his Twitter like every day. So, but anyways, I'm off of Ryan Garcia.
Caleb Plant thinks Ryan cheated. I think Ryan cheated. It's as simple as that.
Everything Caleb said was true. The story has changed so many times. First it was the ashwagandha, then it was the NutriBio.
No. First it was the ashwagandha. Then the Democrats set up Ryan for shadowboxing for Donald Trump. Then it was Eddie Hearn, Victor Conti, and the Haneys who set him up. Then they landed on the NutriBio.
Then they said it came from the NutriBio just for NutriBio to do their own investigation.
They covered their own ass. They weren't going to take the heat for Ryan Garcia's snafu, just for Ryan and his legal team to take a settlement.
They settled.
Is that what an innocent man would do? Accept a penalty of $10,000 and forfeiting $1 million out of his purse.
Serving out a year's suspension, a year from the date of the Devin Haney fight.
Is that what an innocent man would do? Is that what an innocent man would accept?
The night before the fight, and it was on fight night. Yeah. So you know categorically that it was in his system during the fight. Mm-hmm. Not they cycled out 12 weeks ago and it was in him in the fight. If I'm honest, knowing, being through all these different 50 cases and like stuff like that, it would lead me to believe that it was in relation to the weight cut. Right? I think you know enough as well. Like, I don't believe if you're cheating on a cycle or whatever, I don't know, in camp.
It's not going to be the week of.
No.
Or the night.
And you're not going to, so, he says it was contamination, but if it wasn't contamination, I believe he's probably taken that to try and help him make weight for the fight.
That's what I believe. Given when the test, the week that he popped Obviously, the test takes several weeks, but he popped the week of the fight and then the
fight
night
like
of the
that, yeah.
fight. You don't start taking things
No.
the week of the fight and the night of the fight. How he showed up to New York in terms of how much weight he was over. I believe somebody said, take this,
Yeah, it helped
some
him out,
form of
yeah.
diuretic, take it, and he didn't do his research, and he popped. But he's responsible for
Yeah,
it.
for sure.
Why specifically Ryan would have taken a banned substance is unimportant. It feels like too many people are playing devil's advocate in order to minimize the role of the banned substance to the performance.
Ryan doesn't need peds to win.
Then why was he on them?
Ever since this whole thing started, that's what the pochos of the Pocho Society, who identify with Ryan and feel so inclined to defend him on that premise, that's what the pochos have been saying.
Pocho solidarity among the Jono Sabo kids, because Ryan is a Jono Sabo.
I hate Jono Sabos.
In tandem with a few misguided Gervonta Davis fans who are looking for a victory by proxy, that Gervonta beat Ryan and Ryan beat Devin, so it's like Gervonta beat Devin.
That's what it's about for them. That's why those individuals have been defending Ryan Garcia. But anybody defending Ryan Garcia...
Everybody defending Ryan Garcia is only doing so because they have an ulterior motive. They have an agenda.
And you don't?
No, Ryan Garcia didn't blow the weight by 3 pounds and test positive for Osterin because of anything I did or anything I said. That is the reality of his situation. And he is not so upstanding.
Ryan Garcia is not the guy to die on a hill over.
Least of all after that hate-filled tirade, that hate-filled rant, he is not a fighter that requires this level of defense.
No.
And while there is something to be said about widespread doping in the sport and just how widespread it is, we're not going to have that conversation now in an effort to make this seem less bad.
You pocho.
So that's the only reason you pochos would want to do that, though. If the shoe were on the other foot and it were Devin that missed the weight by 3 pounds and Devin who tested positive for Osterin, what would you guys be saying then?
While you're accusing him of being a quote-unquote weight bully, he's not the one that missed the weight.
He made it. He actually made it. Ryan didn't, so doesn't that make Ryan the weight bully?
My thoughts.
If there is a rematch, Devin is going to beat him. Is he going to beat him the same way that Ryan beat him? I don't know about that.
I don't know if he's going to drop him 3 times.
But I do think he's going to beat him. Ryan needed a competitive edge, a banned substance to perform the way that he did. He had to bend the rules.
the next time he won't be able to.
And that's why the next time I don't think he wins. I don't think the same guy shows up, irrespective of why he took the Osterin or when.
That's been everybody's defense. Why would Ryan Garcia take a banned substance so close to the fight? That's not how you cycle.
The why of it all, when I'm left wondering, why would anybody play devil's advocate for Ryan? It doesn't really matter why specifically, why he took it or when, so much as it's there, so much as he took it. And it's very obvious why he took it, because he needed an edge.
Because he thinks the rules don't apply to him and he's stupid.
And so are you if you've been defending him. Oh, how many content creators didn't turn into Johnny Cochran overnight?
What are you, trying to pass the bar exam?
Lab technicians overnight, experts on PEDs and banned substances, cycling.
Just for Ryan to get suspended anyway. Just for Ryan to settle.
I know you won't admit how stupid you feel all these weeks and months later. I know you won't.
But how stupid you feel is irrelevant to how stupid you look.
Because you look damn stupid defending this guy.
And it says a lot about you.
If there is a rematch in the coming year, I'm going to go with Devin Haney to win a points decision. Because Ryan Garcia just isn't that good. And the only reason he won the first fight is because he cheated.
By definition, he categorically cheated. And it's as simple as that.